Now, Dr. Duncan Robertson joins us, Policy and Strategy Analytics academic from Loughborough University, who focuses on COVID-19 modelling and analysis. Thank you very much for joining the programme this morning, Doctor. You put out a Twitter thread last night, which I encourage people to read, which I found utterly terrifying. Can you take us through some of the details, please?
Well, what happens in ICUs is every time someone is admitted to ICUs, the statistics are created. So what has happened is there's been a release of statistics for the last 3 months, and basically it's showing who is in ICU. And I think, one of the sort of stories is, this is just a disease of old people. But if you look at who's actually in ICU, who gets admitted, the average age, and these are just of adults, this doesn't include children, the average age is around 60. But I think what's even more surprising is that a quarter are 52 years or under. So it's just not old people, of course, who are getting it. It's a disease of younger people as well. And I think, it was interesting listening to the Prime Minister today talking about schools and, deprivation. But one of the things is deaths from COVID aren't fair. They attack the most deprived. So if you look at who is in ICU, it's about, you can split the population up into 5 groups. And, if it was fair, you would expect that about 20% from each deprivation group would be admitted to ICU. But what we find is in the least deprived group, there are 12% admitted. But in the most deprived group, you get 31% admitted. So it's about 2.5 times, you're 2.5 times likely to be admitted to ICU if you're deprived. So one way of decreasing inequalities is to stop people dying of COVID.
And it's mainly men, it strikes me, from the figures that you produced. Overwhelmingly, it's men.
Well, that's right. And of course, one of the things that we find when we look at the number of people who are testing positive is we don't get so many people tested. What's called the positivity rate within men is very high. So it basically means that men don't get tested as much as they should compared to women. And so we're seeing these positivity rates very high. And that means that actually what we're seeing when they get to ICU is 2/3 of admissions to ICU are men. So it's, twice the number of men going into ICU than women. So it's not a fair disease. It attacks deprived people, it attacks men. But what's also surprising is it doesn't just attack people who are, unable to cope. So I think there are, you split it down into what people were doing before they were admitted to ICU with COVID. So 87%, nearly 9 out of 10 people were living unaided before they ended up in ICU. So it's not just frail people who are ending up in ICU. And of course, the really, the bad thing is, of course, ICU are very, very sick people, and around 1 in 3 or a third die when they're in ICU. So, I would kind of say, what is the government trying to do? We talked about, it was very clear in the wave 1, it was stay at home, protect the NHS, save lives. That was very clear, right? Now it's only in certain areas, it's stay home. So the protect the NHS and save lives, I think, is being a little bit reduced in its importance. So I think, I would ask, what is the government trying to do? Because, we do have a way out, and, that's the great thing. We have vaccines coming along and are being delivered to hospitals.
One would also hope that the treatments would be getting better for people in those hospitals and the chances of survival were much better. Doctor, thank you so much. Dr. Duncan Robertson, Policy and Strategy Analytics academic from Loughborough University, focusing on COVID-19 modelling and analysis.